What is happening, everybody? We are live Tuesday night, the live well. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And, we appreciate all the followers, all the people out there. We're going to talk some weather changes for fishing this time of the year. Obviously, we've had a big change in the weather, and it's going to throw a little wrench in everybody's plans. I know I was seeing 37 on the truck when I came in this afternoon, so I'm sure we're going to see a lot different weather temperatures, weather changes, rain. We're going to discuss all that stuff. So to my left, I've got Jonathan Farmer. He's here with us. He's going to be talking, sharing some experiences over the weekend fishing, and also, anything you need to know with these lakes up here. And to my right, we've got Dave Aldridge. He's going to be discussing it with us as well. So please make sure you put your comments in. We're going to get all those comments. First off, we're going to hit our sponsors real quick. Our first sponsor we got is Sonar Pros. Listen, the guys at Sonar Pros, the pros take their boats to Trent and his guys over there. They specialize in high-end installations covering all the main brands, Lowrance, Garmin, Humminbird. If you want a reliable installation, take it to where the pros go. Take it to Sonar Pros. Call Trent 770-530-4505. Next, we got Lip Sticker Fishing. Okay, so this is a personal experience with Lip Sticker. He is a guide on Lake Lanier that you will absolutely love. He will put you on the megalodons. And make sure you check out his Patreons. Patreon's a month-to-month subscription. He will put you live on the water while he's there. He gives up the juice. He gives up the spots. He will get you on those fish. But make sure you call or text 678-459-8419 or Kevin at lipstickerfishing.com. And next, we got the best rod sleeves in the market. Now, I don't know how many of these guys up here have the Evolves, but I love them. I absolutely love Alex, I think you got them.
Oh, yeah.
They are the best rod sleeves I have ever used. I had the old woven material rod sleeves, and to be honest with you, I was fighting them tooth and nail. Got the Evolves, best thing on the market. Got a picture from Buddy the other night. He actually ordered some in purple to match his boat. So make sure you check out Evolve rod sleeves at evolvefishing.com. Next, we got the Money Saver Lure Retriever. So this thing goes through the water like a missile down to the bait. If you're throwing these expensive baits, you don't want to have to try to find them in the water later, try to fish them out. Use a cheap lure retriever. Next thing you know, you broke the lure retriever off and you broke the bait down in the water. Use these Money Saver Lure Retrievers, get down there to the bait. And next, we got Bill Payne Guide Service. Now, I got to meet Mr. Payne one time, and he has probably got more experience in his little finger than we've all got in our heads in this entire room. So make sure you call Bill Payne for your Allatoona guys. I think he does other lakes, by request. Give him a call at 706-280-2305. And next, we got Brooks Anderson Fishing. Now, this guy right here, I watch his social media, and he's also dropping some bags at Lanier when he can. Now he's fishing the Elite Series, so he may be a little bit more tied up, but he specializes in the young guys. So make sure if you got high school, college anglers, get those kids on the boat with him. He will make sure they understand what's going on in Lake Lanier and get them on some fish. But BrooksAndersonFishing.com, reach out to him, schedule a trip. And right behind us, we got Turner Tire. Turner Tire, local tire, alignment service in Jasper, Georgia. They, family-owned business. They, I know Danny uses them. I'm sure a lot of you guys use them up here. Great company. Make sure you reach out to them. Their number 706-253-3339 and give them a call for any of your tire, wheel, and alignment needs. I guess we'll jump right into it, guys. We're going to talk that winter weather back at us again. Like I said, I looked at the weather radar a minute ago, and it was like 28, 26 next week. So we're looking at colder temps. What's that going to do to our fishing, our bite? I was in shorts and a t-shirt Sunday fishing. So what's that going to change? How are we going to change that stuff up a little bit?
Our first waves have moved themselves up to feed. They might move off a little bit, but they ain't going far. The one I'm worried about is actually tomorrow. We're getting 4 to 8 inches of rain. It's going to dump on us, and we're going to have dirty water, but it's a cold rain, so it's going to be cold, dirty water. So I avoid cold, dirty water like the plague. I have to have one of 3 things if I'm going to fish dirty water. I have to have warm. I have to have 2 of the 3. If I've got dirty water and it's warm, I'll fish it. Or if I have dirty water and I've got current, I'll fish it. But if I don't have 2 of the 3, I won't go near it.
Gotcha. What water temperature were you seeing Saturday when you fished?
I saw upwards of 54 on Allatoona. We did pull into a pocket that had 55, almost 56.
And I think we were talking last Thursday, people were seeing water temperatures in the mid 40s, low 40s the week before that or a few days before that. So it warmed up quite a bit and it changed a whole lot. So real quick, going to go to the questions real quick, just to go through the comments. Yes, Danny is away and we're getting to play tonight. And so it's a little bit different sitting on this side of the camera. I can feel a little bit more of the nervousness building up when I'm talking to you guys, but we're going to have fun with it. We're going to go through some stuff. So, hey, everybody, we, don't want to leave anybody out in the comments here. We're going to get to all those comments. Dave, what do you think we're going to see? What do you look for, I guess, with this weather change, with the temperature change, things that we can expect to see in the next couple of days if they go fishing?
I think if it's going to get cold, it's going to get muddy. I think that first initial insult's going to make it a little bit tougher. But it looks like once we get into the weekend, at least where I'm going to be, it looks like Friday, Saturday up there, up at the Lake Gunnersville, it's going to start to get a little sunshine, peek out. If we can get a little sun, muddy water, it cools it down, but it also warms up pretty quick. So I'm excited about it. I'd rather have a little dents to the water. And the muddier it gets, the shallower I look.
Right.
Dirty water will position the fish against structure,
and that's
better than any other weather condition or water condition. Dirty water will suck them right against the structure, and they're a lot easier to target that way.
I agree with you 100%. So, we got any questions rolling in already, or?
Got a hey, Dad.
Yeah, that's my daughter, Brooklyn Collum. Hey, Dad. Hey, sweet. She's been telling all her family, hey, my dad's going to be on the show. Make sure you go watch. Hopefully we're doing it justice here. Weather. Let's see. I saw some. We got a whole bunch of comments. Far Dog, what's up, buddy? We appreciate you joining with us. Coleman Jones. Tell Dave and Kevin when you see him that their tips for Sinclair help this weekend. Never would have skipped docks if not for caught many that way.
Good deal.
I got you.
That's awesome, me some skipping docks.
Listen,
that's my bread and butter.
There's certain lakes I fish on that, I'm going to skip docks no matter what. I've got some spots on a little lake near the house that I'll fish, but inevitably I go back to the docks because that's where the big ones are sitting, especially for those big lips. We don't, it doesn't have spots on the lake, so I got to skip some docks wherever I go. I do fish with Dowie quite a bit, so I avoid the docks over there a little bit more, but of course I beat my head in the wall too this time of year. Sunday was not a good time. It was not the best trip. We caught a few, but wasn't great. But again, we didn't look for the dirty water like we should have. Will it be pushed? Silver Pump, will it be pushed back out deeper this weekend?
I'll just take because I was on Allatoona this weekend, seeing how shallow those fish were this weekend on Allatoona. They were in 2 to 5 foot of water. I mean, they were dirt shallow as far as a Highland reservoir goes.
Right.
I don't see these fish moving that far. I see them moving maybe to the first break, the first initial drop to a deep water somewhere. If you were finding them back in a pocket, had bait pushed up, come back out to your first secondary point, they'll probably be sitting right there. Yeah. They're not going to be far. And that was just your first wave. That was the initial wave that moved in. That's not the big wave that's going to come later during pre-spawn. This was your first wave that were already close to shallow water and were able to capitalize on that surface temperature that brought the bait up and had them close.
And that's what I was thinking. We were seeing my game plan for Sunday was to go, try to catch that first wave in there. Well, our water temperature where I was at was a little bit higher than what you guys have. We were almost 60 degrees, and we just didn't find what we were looking for. We did see fish in the backs of creeks or, bait fish back there, but we just couldn't pick up that bite. We had pole docks. We had the typical stuff, throwing the jig, things like that. But that first stop we had, we just did not find those fish sitting back there. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking first wave, that's the only fish you're going to have back there. So we eventually, we came back out of that creek, went to a flat, in the flat near the shallow sides where we started catching fish. So it was, like you said, it was near the main lake. It was right there on a flat, on a break right there, going back into a cove. And that's where we started getting bit at. And, that was our best luck. And then, of course, we went to the dam side of the river and caught some fish down there, but just didn't, I was worried about trying to chase into a creek too far for fear that I was chasing that false form front and getting those first few fish, but it just didn't pan out the way I thought it would. We, just remember that those first fish that are going in there are the first fish that are going to come back out, and you guys still got a bunch of. I think you still have a bunch of deep fish
There's still a ton of fish deep.
Yeah, I mean,
but the thing is, with a lot of bait fish right now, because of the warmer water temperatures up high, it's warmer than it is near the bottom now. So they've come back up. Now you've got a bunch of them fish out deep, but they're 10 foot below the surface.
Now
they're not down in 50, 60 foot. They're up. You might still be over 80 foot of water, but they're in 10 feet under the surface.
Yeah, we had a few fish busting the top. So what do you think top water wise? I mean, I know you said you caught some. Y'all had a few blow ups. We
had 4 or 5 blow ups on buzzbait first thing in the morning. Caught 3 on buzzbait. So between those, we had 6, 7 bites.
There you go. On
buzzbait first thing in the morning. I did get one to later in that afternoon blow up on a small Zara spook.
Okay.
But the only reason I did that is because I was seeing bait fish up top and fish cruising under the surface, and I was able to throw it. But they would only come up so far. They wanted it right under the surface, so I went to the little cast echo and was rolling it through, and that's how we caught our fish.
So with the weather, are we looking at a complete change of what we probably threw this last weekend, Dave? You think it's something we're going to have to change a complete mindset, reaching the tackle box for something different?
I don't think we are. I think there's still a lot of those fish that we talked about. I think it was Thursday night. There's going to be some fish that's pushed up. But like I said, they're going to be. I would look for the rock that's the deepest, closest to where I feel like they're going to spawn. It's not going to change my approach. Now, if it was still really warm, we're not getting a bunch of rain, I would start looking more shallow. But like I said, if they slide back, that's where they're going to go to. You know, if they're already kind of pushing up there, a lot of this stuff is deeper anyway. They can just sit there,
right,
till it gets right.
Once it's always come back to make itself true. Once your first wave moves up, they won't move back off unless you have 2 or 3 weeks of just straight cold weather.
Makes sense.
I mean, and we're really not going to be that cold. Yeah, we're below freezing at night. But during the day, it still gets up into the 50s. So your water temp's not really going to drop back down into the mid 40s to shock these fish. It might dip back into the low 50s, but it's not going to make it back down where it was at.
Yeah.
So these fish are not going to go as far as you think they were, because the cold weather is not going to affect them as much as it affects us. Because we get the wind, we get the water temp. The water temp, it takes a lot to make that water temp change.
That's a fair point.
And the rock and the dock floats and all these hold heat. So it takes a lot to make these water temps drop.
Right. I agree with you 100%. I mean, and it's amazing to me to see no matter what the temperature swing change is, where the fish are usually always sitting. You find places that always have fish, whether it be, you know, rock, dock, whatever. It seems to always have at least 1 or 2 fish that, you know, you can go in there and, you know, there's a guy on with that, he calls them homer spots. That's where the fish are always there. It doesn't matter what the temperature is, you're going to go in there and catch a fish. So, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And maybe, you know, a lot of us guys overthink the fact that we're, you know, the weather, like you said, we're getting out there, we're feeling the wind, the rain, whatever. And the fish are like, hey, ain't changed much down here. We're still home. So, well, we got some questions up there, Alex. What we got there? What's y'all's best tips for fishing the north end of Lanier from the bank? Let's take that.
The north end of Lanier. So, are we on the Chestatee side or are we on the Chattahoochee side?
Let's go Chattahoochee. We'll go Chattahoochee side first.
Chattahoochee. That's the Laurel Ridge side, or Laurel Park. I'm sorry. If I was fishing from the bank, I'll probably go to Laurel Park and fish there, because there are so many tournaments that go out of Laurel Park, and there's going to be so many retreads on that red clay bank sitting there,
right,
eating on them crawfish that have buried up and now are coming out, and there's bait fish that stay against that bank because of how the wind blows up Lanier. I'd go to Laurel Park and fish the bank, and I'd throw either a spot choker, rolling it through there, or I would toss a jerk bait, targeting those fish, and then always have a jig with you.
So,
or a shaky head.
You talked about comparing the two sides, whether it be the Chestatee versus the Chattahoochee. Other than Laurel Park having obviously a lot of traffic up that way, is there a difference other than that? Like the Chattahoochee just a better side to fish versus the chest
No.
you're just picking, or is it just better access or just more opportunity to catch?
It's a little better access on the Chattahoochee side. You got a few more boat ramps up that way. I think you got a boat ramp back in Wahoo. I mean, you got Toto Creek, you got Charleston, or is it Thompson? Thompson. You got Thompson.
Lumpkin County.
Yeah, Lumpkin County, but you got Bolden Mill.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of access points, but with, say, like Laurel Park, you can walk that entire way around and be able to fish that.
Right.
Toto and all those, you're localized to a pretty small area with the lake up.
Yeah.
Now, if the lake was down, it'd be a different story. You could walk the lake bed,
Right.
and fish. But you're kind of without a boat, you're kind of localized to an area. And I like Laurel Park on the Chattahoochee side better because of the channel swing. Channel swing comes in, it goes in, out, hits that off opposing bank over there, and then it comes right back around and slams almost right up against where the ramp's at.
Yeah.
So you've got access to deep water. You've got a lot of you got a lot of brush right there because there's been a lot of crappie fishermen sink brush right off that fishing dock. So you got brush, you've got deep water, you got plenty of, you got retreads from the tournament guys throwing all their fish back right there. So there's fish in the area.
That makes sense. Something, I don't remember if it was at David, we were at your house the other night or if we were here Thursday, but somebody said it's amazing to see how many guys will go past a boat ramp to go fish somewhere. They'll blast off out of a tournament, whatever, and they'll leave the boat ramp area. And honest to goodness, the boat ramp area is the best place to fish for anything. As long as you can
retreads.
Yeah, as long as you, from the bank guys, I don't know about out here, but I know some lakes, they'll prohibit you fishing from the dock or whatever if it's at a boat ramp. But if you can fish the boat ramp area, I'm telling you, there's always good fish at a boat ramp. We've caught some big ones where we fish boat ramps there in tournaments.
I love fishing the boat ramp because it's a small road bed.
Yep.
And in the wintertime, they seek out hard bottom.
Yep.
And what's harder than concrete?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the tournament guys, I mean, I'm guilty of it. We'll blast off out of the spot we're, fishing at. We'll blast away from there. And I'm going, because I guess I want to have the ego saying I can go find fish. I'm like, they're right behind me where I just left.
Well, the reason that I've done this is I'll leave,
Come back,
and then come right back after. And I'll only go so far where I can see the ramp.
Right.
And I'll see all everybody blast off. Then I'll go back and start fishing because I don't want people to see where I'm fishing.
Yeah. Right. And I'll say this for where I fish at. I fish with one of the Bassmaster elites, and he fishes in our winter trail, and he fishes the boat ramp first thing in the morning. Not every time, but I had been in there when I had to be there, and here he comes right back in with me. So, I mean, even the pros are fishing the boat ramps. They know where the fish are at. So don't be, don't forget the boat ramps.
I can't believe I'm going to give this one away.
Uh-oh, we got some juice coming.
Up the chest tee between Bolden Mill and War Hill. I think it's just 2 boat ramps. That's an actual road bed. They use the old road bed as boat ramps. So you can go out as far as you want and be on hard bottom all the way across.
Wow. There you go. There's the juice from the man himself. John G. Wilson. I've never been to Allatoona, but I have a kayak tournament coming in March 8th with Slay Nation. I live in Gray, Georgia. What's a good ramp to launch from?
Give them a bad ramp. I'm fishing that tournament too.
Alex said we're not giving you the juice on that one. So, hey,
Red Top, you got a lot of access to Big Rock, and some good fishing. Blockhouse, you got access to a bridge and dirty water down there around Allatoona Creek. Kellogg, you've got access to a bridge and some good secondary points.
Gatewood.
Well, Gatewood, you've got access to Stamp Creek. There's Upper Stamp Creek boat ramp's a good one. You'd be more largemouth up there. You got plenty of ramps. Webster's Ferry, right there in the middle of the lake. It's a good one because you've got a marina close by, an Allatoona Yacht Club. You've got a lot of points around. You've also got Webster's Ferry is a great little area to target spots in the ditch because in the middle of the ditch, it's got some of those huge semi-truck sized boulders in the middle of the ditch. So it's you've got your options. It's all in what you want to target. If you want to go up to Fields Landing, all the way up near the river, to target largemouth in dirty water, in shallow water around them stumps, and do that. That's what I would do, because I know that's where some big largemouth live this time of year when the lake's down, and you can target them with a square bill, a spinnerbait, and a chatterbait, and a jig, and be done.
Yep.
Now, John, are you getting a chance to pre-fish that at all to go check it out, or are you just going to go in there blind? That's another good thing to kind of throw out there.
I fixed the truck. I fixed the truck.
Alex, your truck ain't going to make it. He fixed the truck, so he's back at it. You have another question up there? You had your
there was one right here.
All right. What baits you guys using when the cold hits? That's from Kyle Brown. I mean, my mind, I don't change a whole lot. I keep it, when I asked Dave that question, we're gonna have to reach in the tackle box. I mean, I keep everything tied on anyway. So I'm gonna have the jig, the shaky head, the jerk bait. I'm gonna throw the same stuff because I'm convinced they're gonna bite it. I may get kicked in the teeth, which I do sometimes.
Instead of throwing the DT6, I might go to the DT8 or the DT10 just to get that, maybe catch them where they've moved off to the break, where I can fish the break a little easier. Or I may hunt down the first brush pile in the first deep water off a point.
Right.
They're not going to move. If they move, they're not going to move far.
Right. Yep. I say Coleman, did y'all see someone drop a 28-pound bag on West Point? Second place was 21, third was 19. Yeah, I saw that this morning. I think it was a GLL Marine that had that tournament there, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's a huge bag, but
especially
that lake's
for West Point.
Yeah, well, that lake's way down. So I've had some buddies that fished it, back this probably late summer that were, they're basically like shooting fish in a barrel because they're finding spots where the fish are stacked because they have to be. I'm not saying that's what happened because West Point hadn't put out something like that in a while, but yeah, it's a different fishing this time of year where that lake is far down. The last time I was there, we found some big fish, but we just didn't get the biggest ones, that were there, but it was in those predictable spots on West Point as well. What pound test do you guys use for flipping docks?
17-pound test is my go-to. I hardly ever get away from 17-pound test when I'm flipping jigs, skipping jigs. The only reason I would get away from 17-pound test is if I'm, say, on a lake that's real bad about mussels, I'll bump up to 20.
Okay. Dave, what do you what's your go-to?
I'm a straight 17, but I will only throw abrasics. I break the other stuff. The only time I vary that is if we're on like Chickamauga and I'm flipping trees. I'll tie a braid and then tie a fluoro leader and go to 20 or 25. But I prefer to flip 17. It comes off the reel better for me. I just don't like that anything much bigger than that.
I got you. I use 15-pound Invisics. That's what I throw. It's just what I used to make people nervous because I would flip with 12. And people were like, "You're crazy for doing that." So I went up to 15 and I actually like it better because if I want to set that hook, I'm not worried as much about it. But yeah, I'm using a 15-pound myself. Farmer, what are you throwing on Allatoona 1st of March? That's from
1st of March.
That's pretty specific, isn't it?
Hey, I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't have a square bill or some kind of shallow running crankbait in my hand or a big bladed spinnerbait up in dirty water,
Shallow,
looking for those largemouth that are just stacked in them trees, in the ends of those trees. One of my favorite ways to catch them this time of year is on a big square bill. My favorite one right now is the River to Sea Biggie. Mm-hmm. Love that square bill. Comes through cover extremely well. And I do it, the way I do it is I call it worming it through the laydown. You're going to sit there and you're reeling it up. You're feeling for that limb and you start to feel it. You pick that rod tip up, make that thing come over, just pop over it, and you drop your rod and reel it back down. I've caught some big ones on Allatoona doing that in March or late February, early March.
That's some good juice right there. What's our next question?
Favorite buzzbait for fall?
Favorite buzzbait, I believe, was another one from Jeremy Tyson.
Favorite buzzbait is the Buckeye G-Buzz, because I think I was 18 or 19 when G-Man dropped that bend in the buzzbait that he does. Well, now Buckeye makes his buzzbait to his specifications, and that thing is awesome. Love that buzzbait. If it wasn't that one, then I'd probably a War Eagle buzzbait, and I put the bend in it myself.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
you can
Dave.
modify.
You can modify any buzzbait,
And that's what I do. I throw the lunker lure.
Yeah.
With that, I've been modifying that for years, and I didn't see it that early.
Mhm.
But he did a bad shoe on it,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But I've thrown a lunker lure for years.
I will tell you this with that bend in the buzzbait, you'll see it as soon as you do it. Your bite to hookup ratio goes through the roof.
Yep.
Because now your buzzbait, the hook itself sits further down in the water, and when the fish grabs it, he has to grab a hook. He doesn't just sit there and smack it out of the water. When he tries to eat it, he has to grab hook. That's why I never throw a trailer hook.
Yeah,
I don't have
either.
to.
I don't either. I don't even throw a skirt.
I throw a white Z-Crawl Junior on the back of mine.
I throw either a Z-Crawl or like on Lanier, I'll throw a swim bait. But Jacob Wheeler did a thing, I don't know, 5 or 6, 7 years ago. They were in a tank and they were throwing a buzzbait, had the hook cut off, and they'd come up and they'd blow up on that buzzbait and go back down, go blow up and go back down. He took it off and took the skirt off, put a piece of plastic on there. They go up, they blow up, they grab that buzzbait and take the whole buzzbait back down. Mm-hmm. It's something more natural, I feel like, for them to grab onto, and they tend to hold on to it just a little bit longer.
I haven't had as much success with just the swim bait on it, but I have been playing around with it a little bit. The Fat Albert, the big one.
Yeah.
I
want everything I throw is either I throw a swim bait like a 3, I think it's a 3.3, maybe a 3.8, but I want something flat so I can skip it.
Yes,
that's my biggest thing. And if I run out of Z-Crawls, I'll put a Sweet Beaver on there.
Mm-hmm.
I just need something flat, and you can skip that buzzbait under.
I mean, there's a little more bulk to it, which makes it a little harder to get them to eat it. But if they do eat it, it's usually a good one. Is a Zoom horny toad.
Yeah,
on the back of a buzzbait, and you can skip that extremely well.
Yep.
I like the Tactical Fishing Company, Tack Toad.
Yeah, I was just fixing to ask you. I know you've got some sponsors. It's a good time to plug that for your buzz baits.
I like the Tack Toad.
There you go. When I growing up fishing from the bank, I started fishing the buzz bait, and I always use whatever. I was always the double bladed buzz bait guy back then, And now I'm doing a single blade because I don't know why, I just like it better. But I use a Z-Crawl if I'm going to throw one. But right now I've got a guy that I bought some off of. He's on TikTok. It's Fast Eddie Fishing, but he's called the Zombie buzz bait, and it's got a cylinder knocker on it, brass knocker on it, and it has its time. Let me put it that way, because when they stop biting it, because that knocker. I'm not a huge believer in that, but I caught some nice ones last year with that. But I'll throw a regular what is it? I think it's the Strike King or the KVD with the toad on it, and sometimes I'll rip the toad off and put the Z-Crawl on the back of it, and that's what I usually throw.
I throw a single prop buzz bait 90% of the time. The only time I don't is around these North Georgia lakes around the herring spawn. Because if you ever really pay attention to these herring spawning and you listen to what they sound like when they're just jumbled up behind a boat dock or a motor or something, it sounds just like that little B2B double buzz bait coming through the water.
Yep.
And they will smash it.
Yeah, and we could go down a rabbit hole about tuning buzz baits for sure, because I
I
tear every one of mine apart. I don't care if it's custom.
I'll take everything off of it,
rebuild it.
Absolutely.
We can get into the half ounce blade on a quarter ounce buzz bait.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things you can do to it, but I at least always check, because I'm trying to get the squeal out of it. I want as much noise as I can get out of one. So that's just me. All right, what else we got here? Go up to Stephen Dubberly, excuse me. Are you throwing big swim baits around docks after this cold front? I think I will.
I will too.
Yes.
What do you think about that, Dave?
Big swim baits, mag grass. I'm tied on a glide.
I'm gonna have a Chad shad ready to go after this one.
Yeah,
And I just,
for sure.
It's just, that's one of those baits this year that I have got to put in my hands and throw it, because I just don't have not that I want to have the confidence in it. I just got to get out there and do it. I don't have that confidence quite yet. Eventually I will get there with it. So I'm going to take y'all's advice and probably tie one on.
Mag draft, so I can skip under docks and skip around stuff, get it way up underneath stuff where they're going to be holding tight to those black floats. And then the Chad shad to see if I can pull them out, or if they're down, I can pull them up.
Well, see them.
Now, you talked about that Z-Man. I don't know if you want to.
I ain't played with it enough
you
yet.
Mess with it yet enough. I know you talked about how good that one looks.
It looks the Z-Man Shadtron. I didn't give it the time of day, but since I've seen it in the water, seen it work, that is going to be one of them baits that probably catches a big bag of fish soon.
Heck yeah. Far Dog, take a 1/2 ounce Buzzbait blade off and put it on that G Buzz, then put the smaller G Buzz blade on the 1/2 ounce. Okay, money. Gotcha. Doc Holiday, does anyone remember the Pedigo Hornet spinnerbait, large single Colorado blade, caught lots of good fish years on it. Also Cordell Spider. I don't remember those.
I remember hearing the Cordell Spider.
Okay.
I don't remember the other one.
I don't either.
I'm not familiar with that one. All right. You got Far Dog. What's your guys' favorite color of braid on a spinning reel? I like hot pink. I'm a that whatever yellow green color it is. I use
Nuclear yellow.
Yeah.
Cast.
He used the cast.
It's three different colors. It's like yellow, green, and blue. It's
one
pretty.
over here, and I'll just.
I mean, for me, I went this year. I got big into the spinning reel. I'd kind of put it down for a long time, so I was using the regular colored braid, and I finally had to go to that high vis stuff because I couldn't see the crap.
I love high vis, and I used Power Pro forever because it was cheap, accessible, and it was a good line. Didn't have any problem out of it. It just did not cast that great. When I went to, I mean, it's got a hefty price point. I ain't going. It's $50 per spool, but I can get an
more spinning reels than you got.
But I can get this thing, that cast braid to cast 50 feet longer than what I could get any other
without even trying.
Trying.
That's the one thing I figured out when I went from the regular, I was using small, diameter braid, but when I switched over to the Seagar high vis stuff, I'm like, I could tell a huge difference. So my next thing is to jump to the cast, because obviously, and I'm not, sponsored. We're not sponsored by cast or anything, but you don't buy braid every time you go out, and it lasts forever. So if you spend $50 on a reel,
it's going to sit there forever.
It's going to be on your line, on your reel forever. So that's my next. I mean, like I said, it was almost when I threw out, and I'm using the Z-Man graph shads, and I went, and that cast like a lot further. Yep. So I can only imagine what the cast, how far it goes.
I pride myself on my castability.
Yeah,
how I can cast and being the most accurate I can be. I tell you this, when I first switched over to cast, I couldn't cast for crap because I'd be sitting there and I'd throw and I'd be like, all right, that's going to land right there. And it'd be over the dock. And I'm like, what's going on? Or I'd cast at a tree and go, all right, that's going to land right in front of that tree and it's going to be a perfect little shot. And it'd land on the bank. And I'm like,
and I don't think we give enough credit to, or not credit, but we don't talk enough about the efficiency when you're fishing, because you go out there and I mean, we all, fishing tired's a different kind of tired. And I mean, I could tell a huge difference after a day of fishing with a better braid than the day before when I was on that, the other stuff. And I mean, like I said, I'd go out there with a spinning reel, which is not a big thing to be throwing around. But at the end of the day, you're like, man, I can tell a whole difference with that. So I can only imagine, going to something different makes it a lot better. So. Got somebody says pink. Michael Porter says pink.
Yep.
Tony, those two bass in my profile picker from Wedowee, spring and summer, I can catch good fish there, but as soon as the water drops, I struggle to catch 5. Any tips for picking them out of the trees? Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, Kyle, picking them out of the trees is not my forte. I'll be honest with you. I've got some other spots. I check. Obviously, if you can find brush piles, things like that. Spring and summer, I struggled last summer with it. I had to finally learn how to fish the drop shot, or not learn, but I had to put it in my hand and just fish the drop shot because I wanted to take my wife fishing and stuff like that, you know. But yeah, the timber on lanier, because there's so much of it, that's the one thing I've got to get better at. And I look at it every time on forward face and go, I'm sure they're sitting in there, but I just can't figure it out. I know when they first started dropping the water there back during the fall, because they start dropping, I believe, September, October timeframe. You could get in some of that taller timber and some of the typical pockets you'd find going into creek arms. And I was counting down a Berkeley, what's the +1 or whatever they've got, whatever it is they've got. I was counting it down to 20 and getting it to the top of the timber and jerking it through the timber, and they were biting it there. So that's honestly my best tip. The other thing is just get out there, and you're going to have to, you know, mess around with maybe a minnow or something like that in that. But I haven't figured out the timber on Woodalley just yet. All right. All right, Grant Esky, I think that's how you say that. I'm trying to thin and upgrade my fishing rod collection. Realistically, how many bait casters do I really need? A half dozen. I got piles of rods, but I'm discovering I rarely use all of them. There's no such thing as too many rods and reels, in my opinion. Maybe on the boat.
The way I had to approach it, because, I mean, I have to watch what I spend on fishing gear. Get you a rod that does 4 to 5 things.
Absolutely.
And figure out what that is. And you can get away with an arsenal of 10 to 15 rods. If you've got a rod that will do crankbait, chatterbait, square bill, spinnerbait. Like I've got my tournament legend glass that I've got 4 of them. I love them from St. Croix. I've got a heavy that does my square bills. It does my big square bills. It does my lipless crankbait. It does my spinnerbaits. It does chatterbait. It does all these other different things that I can work with one rod. Same way with every rod.
He had a follow-up to that. Basically, I'm asking what rod length actions are a must-have to get by with for most techniques. I think that's where you were going with that. Get those 4-wheel drive rods. I say all-wheel drive. We'll call it that because something you can do a little bit with everything. I keep,
have a medium or a heavy mod action rod for your square bill, your swimming stuff that's a little bit heavier, like your square bills, chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, stuff like that. A medium heavy mod for your DT8s, crankbaits, deep little ends, any run of the mill little crankbaits. Your deep water crankbaits, you're probably going to want to go with the Falcon Lowrider. And it's got enough backbone to throw a rig. It's got enough backbone to throw bigger swim baits. Maybe not shad, but something like a mag draft. It's got plenty of backbone to do it. Then you've got a 7.4 to a 7.6, and this is going off my preferences. 7.4 to 7.6, medium heavy, fast action rod for your jigs, worms, Carolina rigs, big top, or not your top waters. That's your mod action rods, but anything with a single hook. Swim jigs, you're going to be good with it. Your small swim baits, your shaky head, your underspins and stuff like that. A medium or a 7.4 medium spinning rod's all you need.
Well, we can think of it, so let's say, Dave, I want to get your opinion, then I want to get Alex's opinion since he's on a kayak. Because that rod selection and quantity makes a difference depending on what you're doing as well. But you've been doing this a lot longer than I have. So What do you think? Maybe we look at it from somebody that's going to be fishing with somebody else. We'll go that route. So say you got to pick 6 rods out. What's going to be your actions, your go-to on that thing?
I keep for a spinning rod, I like a 7-foot medium heavy. I throw my shaky head on that. Anything with a covered up hook, I like a medium heavy. If I feel like we're going to be, some open hook, I'll downsize to medium. It's hard to beat. I've got a bunch of them. It's a 7.2 medium heavy. It's a number 5 power Falcon. I've got a bunch of those. I throw top water on it. I throw chatterbaits. You can throw a crankbait on it. You can throw lipless on it. if I go to like the Coosa River and you're catching 12 to 15 inches, I'll flip with that rod so that I don't rip them out of the water with my heavy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will say this: Falcon makes a really, really good rod. It's called a lizard dragger. It's kind of between a medium heavy and a heavy. I use that for flipping, pitching. I use it for frogging. It's got a little more tip than the Amistad does. You can throw a rig on it. It handles all that really well. That one rod, you could do pretty much any bottom bouncing bait. But I also got in a bind one day and needed an extra topwater rod, like on Lanier, and I tied a big topwater on it and went to flinging it, and you can still catch them on it. That's one of my favorite of all the rods that they make is that lizard dragger, because it's kind of in that medium between that number 5 and that heavier action power. But something in that range, that's kind of the way I have mine set up.
I did see one question up there. What's a good chatterbait rod? It's a fairly cheaper rod. You don't have to break the bank for it. It's a glass rod. It's the Mojo Bass glass. They may have changed the blank, but it used to be a green blank and a heavy. Don't go with medium heavy because you're going to fight setting the hook. But with a glass rod, you're able to sit there and feel that thing, especially like in grass on Gunnersville. You can feel that thing coming through grass and pop it, and it's still got enough backbone to clear it. But when that fish takes it, he's able to take it deep when you set that hook, and you're going to have him pinned. And usually and this is just my experience, if I hook one on a glass rod, it's coming in the boat.
Yeah.
I don't lose them much when they're hooked on a glass.
I only have one glass rod in my whole arsenal, and I throw a big spoon on it in the summertime. I fish with a guide out there, and he's like, dude, you ain't lost a fish. I'm like, I'm not going. I mean, that rod gives. It's really good for that. That's the only really glass rod I throw.
See, all my crankbait setups, jerkbait's still mod fast, but crankbaits, spinnerbaits, and my chatterbait is all, and squarebills is fished all on glass, because I have the leverage on the fish now. He can't get leverage on me, because when he comes up and jump, that rod's not going to, like a fast action, just snap back.
Right.
And now he's got all the leverage in the world on me and throw that bait back at me and laugh at me as he swims off.
Right.
Now when he comes up and jumps, that rod's going to still stay pinned, just to have a little bit tension on him, and he can't throw that hook as easy.
So Alex, with you kayak fishing, what are you putting on the rig?
So I have 2 mini rods.
Well,
I'm like in the 30s probably.
wow.
They're all technique specific pretty much. So they've all always got a chatterbait or a spinnerbait or whatever tied onto them. And I go with what the fishing reports and what people like Farmer and Kevin Underwood are saying. And I go in there and I pick 6 to 10 rods out to take with me, and I go out there and get after it.
So are you looking for anything specific as far as the action? Are you looking for anything as far as, so are you looking for like your all-wheel drive rods?
No.
Or you're looking specifically, depending on what they say in the fishing report, that's what you're going with?
That's what I'm grabbing. So if I'm going to throw a chatterbait, I'm going to grab my Cash and Icon chatterbait rod.
I got you.
If I'm going to throw spinnerbait, I'm grabbing my Cash and Icon spinnerbait rod, my worm and jig rod, etc. They're all.
Makes sense. So let's go ahead and do Fishers of Hope real quick. I don't want to go past those guys. All right, guys. Fishers of Hope. Our mission is to glorify God, be servants of his word, and to bring those in need to peace and hope that only he can bring. If you don't know, these folks help out a lot of folks. They help out whenever they can. They have fishing tournaments, and they're just that's the kind of positivity we need in life, and we want to make sure we support those guys. So make sure, if you want to participate or donate or know somebody in need, make sure you contact Fishers of Hope Ministry at gmail.com, and they're out of Blairsville, Georgia. Really reach out to those folks. I think Danny said last week, we're going to try to get them some scales. I guess Ryan came through with that. Still, I don't know the details of that stuff, but we want to make sure that's the kind of positivity we want in fishing. We want in our group. That's the kind of stuff we like to see. So please reach out to them and support them. We really appreciate all their support and service to the community. So we thank you for those guys for having been part of the show. And this, while we're sitting at that point, I don't know if you guys noticed or not, I don't have a question of the week. Didn't think a question of the week. I was worried about making sure that power stayed on in the office here when we were getting ready for the show. So I don't have a question of the week. So if anybody's got one, I will sneak something off the wall over here that we can give away. I hate to say that I didn't do that, and I did not plan that far ahead. Like I said, I got here and trying to get the place warmed up, and we dropped power twice. We were fighting to get the cameras back up and running for the show. So if anybody's got a question, we'll do something like that. Let's see. We got Brooklyn needs the pink fish hat. I'll have to get that next time when Danny's in the shop, because I'm not he's not here, so it's not that kind of free run of the place.
Here, I got you a question of the week.
All right, so we got a question of the week. I just need to step away and get a bait or something off the wall, unless you know something that we can. Got it. You got it, Dave? Okay, Dave's gonna grab us a bait. We're gonna do a question of the week. Let's get one more question in here. We'll do question of the week in just a few minutes. We're not gonna do it right now. And I apologize for dropping the ball on that. John G. Wilson, what soft plastic do you use on an underspin?
Cast
Kitech.
I was gonna say,
but Kitech's going to be your everybody throws Kitech, but Cast Echo, Cast Prodigy, the Demiki Armor Shed, Fluke Juniors, Fishco's little Minner, or the one that's really hard to get a hold of, but work really work, are the little baby Z2s.
Yeah, I think my experience with the underspin, I've always used a Kitech for the most part, and it's gotten bit for me. So, and that's the other thing we talked about, going shallow and stuff. I'll throw the underspin real shallow and run it through, and
underspin will work everywhere.
Yeah, it's a 4-wheel drive bait. It goes everywhere. So
I mean, one of the best bites you can get on an underspin is, I think it's a lost art now that we've forgotten, because since forward facing sonar is dragging those things on the bottom and letting that blade tick against the rock, and you'll be surprised how many fish you catch doing that. I
wonder how many baits we put down, not thinking that those baits still catch fish. We won't focus on stuff so much that we're not throwing. That's what we're talking about. I don't remember where I was talking about it, but maybe it was Thursday or over at your house the other night. The jig, what's his the Tyler Williams was talking about. That's how he fishes forward facing sonar. Well, that's how I learned how to fish forward, was with a jig. I mean, I wasn't out there jigging over 100 foot of water. I was throwing it up in 5 foot of water, docks, and seeing fish bite it. For me, that was I wasn't focused on the other stuff. It was using the stuff that I already had in my boat, not thinking about I didn't do the jigging until this year.
Well, a lot of people don't like the fish jig, and it's understandable, but it's the most versatile thing in your tackle box.
Yep. I got used to fishing the jig. I fished the Tuesday nighters Allatoona it's been several years ago now. And a buddy of ours who fished way back in the day was like, go to this area, throw the jig right next to this spot, and there's typically fish sitting on it. And sure enough, my first time with a jig, I went and my buddy like, hey, go buy this jig and buy some of the chunk trailers to go on it. Threaded it on there, and I had a 4-pound largemouth off that pole, and it was just one of those things. You're like, after that, I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked.
Jig bite to me is like a topwater bite. There ain't nothing like it.
It is nothing.
When they thump it, it's game on.
Yes, sir. And normally he's got it.
He's got it.
What does G-Man say? He ain't got pockets. He ain't got a safety deposit box. No, he's got it. Cart. Blister him.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm gonna tell you, the ones I like the best are when you don't feel a thing.
No, you pick up, it just feels like a sponge.
Especially on these spot lakes, you pick it up and it's moving. That's a good one, because a 2-pound spot, he ain't gonna do that. That's gonna be at 3s, 4s, 5s,
right?
And you're gonna catch some really big fish that way.
Absolutely. We were talking about jigs. It was probably last Thursday, but last year I had an issue, and I've talked to a couple of guys since then, and they were like, "Man, that makes a lot of sense." And there's a couple of people that have fished a lot and they never thought about it. We were talking about fishing a jig in cold weather, and you get that initial thump. Mm-hmm. You set the hook, fish gets halfway back, and you lose the fish. And we talked about them clamping down on that line so tight that you thinking, I've set the hook, I've jacked their jaws, or I've crossed their eyes, and then they come back to the boat, and you're halfway back, and all of a sudden the fish realize, wait a minute, I can open my mouth and let go of it. So keep that in mind too, because that's something that I thought was pretty cool. I've talked to several guys, and they're like, you know what? I wonder why I was missing fish.
They clamp down on it so hard when you because in the wintertime you're bombing those casts out there, mm-hmm. and you're not picking up enough line, even with fluoro, and it's got very little stretch. You're still not picking enough up to drive that or pull that lead out of his mouth and drive that hook home.
Yeah, I was looking. I was having to set the hook like some of these guys you see on TikTok trying to break rods. I mean, I was having to, really jack them to even make a hook set.
The best hook set I can tell you for a jig is take a step backwards.
That's what I was doing. Yeah,
and swing like you're swinging backwards.
I mean, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I've broke a couple rods doing that.
All right. What we got next?
There was one right up there.
When throwing an underspin, paddle tail, or straight like Fluke Jr., what would you throw one over the other? And that's from Adam W. Fishing.
Let the fish tell you.
Yep.
That's the best way I can explain it. Let the fish tell you that day.
I'll only throw a paddle tail if they won't bite the straight tail.
Mm-hmm.
I start with a straight tail 100% of the time.
And I learned I threw a paddle tail right off the bat with it and had good luck with it. So I'll usually start off there. But, as I'm growing and fishing, I'm learning that the straight tail, you got to know which one, like you said, you got to help the fish tell you what they want for sure. Let's see what else we got next. Christopher Page. I always listen and fish with what farmer got going on fishing, but I bring it to Hartwell Lake.
All right. What I like to do is the epitome of junk fishing. I am a junk fisherman. I am not one of those that's gonna go out there offshore and go, they're on this point. Okay, I can go 20 miles up lake and this point sets up like it with it either. I'm going to go, well, this stretch of bank's got them covered in it. How in the world am I going to make this stretch of bank good for me? So I've got a million rods on the front deck, and usually if you find one or two baits that they'll bite, you can kind of alternate between them.
Well, listen, I started watching the Fish North Georgia podcast because it dawned on me. I'm like, well, Lanier matches a lot of what I fish, and these guys are a wealth of information. If you don't watch this show every week, twice a week, I'm sorry, or at least the next day or whatever, you're gonna pick up on what these guys are putting down, and you're gonna catch fish wherever you're at. I mean, we've got a Grass Lake guru here that fishes Grass Lake, and he fishes Lanier. Farmer's got experience all over. He fishes a lot. Alex, you fish all over. I fish same style lakes they do, but learn a lot from these folks, and I really appreciate all the input they give. And the one thing about this show is they give up a lot of juice, whether they mean to or not. They do it a lot. So, Stephen Dubberly, does color make much difference on those smaller swim baits?
I don't know that it does. The only time I even really worry about it, it's some sort of shad pattern.
Mm-hmm.
The only time I will really kind of get halfway specific is if it's cloudy. I usually don't throw much with a glitter in it. When the glitter seems to shine, it's when you got sunlight and wind, and then a lot of times at that point I'm reeling it and moving a little faster. But that's really about it. I think Kitex, light hitch, French pearl. If you go easy shiner, I only have 2, Pro Blue and electric shad. Something in those lines usually will get you bit.
See, he's talking about like the more natural you go, the smaller the bait fish gets. When the sun's up, you're gonna catch fish regardless. But see, my favorite Kitex color is Ghost Rainbow, because I have a pink hue with a pearl style bait. It's kind of like the red pearl, but red pearl's more natural for them sunny days. But I can throw Ghost Rainbow year round and catch fish on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's go back to what Dave said. I'm using electric shad. That's typically what I go with. I'm thinking, something a little flashy, but not over the top, depending on cloud cover, sun, whatever. But I mean, I'm sticking mainly, that electric shad is usually what I throw on the back of it myself. Y'all ever have luck with a Tokyo rig? I've tried it. I didn't.
I don't use it for what it's intended for.
What's that mean? Elaborate on that.
The Tokyo rig, the way I understand it, was made for punching, was flipping grass.
Yep.
The way I use it is like a wobble head,
okay,
but with a swim bait. I'll tie a 3/4 ounce, or I'll put a 3/4 ounce weight on it, but I'll chunk it out over a shallow flat
and
reel it back.
Makes sense.
And that swim bait's just down there, just a bouncing, and I can change hooks out on the Tokyo rig because it has that split ring. Now I can bump it down to a smaller hook for as small a swim bait as I want.
You know, we had a comment up there right above that. It was talking about the paddle tail at night. Where was that at? Paddle tail only at night for me to get some. What? Why would you think
I
paddle
would
tail
think
at night?
just a little more thump.
You're moving water.
That's what I'm
because
thinking too.
I mean, full moon, they're not having to use their lateral line as much. They can still see silhouettes.
Right.
But new moon nights, pitch black, cloudy nights, yeah, you're moving more water. That's why no matter what time of year it is, if I'm fishing at night, I'm throwing a crankbait. I'm moving water.
Right.
Or I'm throwing a chatterbait. I'm moving water. I mean, you're doing the same thing pretty much with a jig, because you've got your trailers kicking water usually when you're not fishing. It's summertime, so you're moving water.
Right. Absolutely. Anyone here fish the log?
No, Danny does.
Yeah, I say
Hickory log.
I'm guessing that's
Yeah.
what he means, hickory log. I've never fished there.
I've fished off the bank,
Yeah.
and I caught a little 12-incher, and I said, I won't be back.
Yeah, there's a bunch more of them in there.
And fishing with Gup, I asked y'all ever fish West Point? Yeah, I fished
Yeah.
West Point.
Nope.
I like West Point.
I've been on West Point one time, and it was not in my boat. And the guy I was with wanted to, we'll put it this way, he wanted to scope them offshore, and we didn't catch a thing. And I'm sitting there looking at all that rock on the bank going, oh, that looks so good.
I fished West Point a few times, but it's got my number for some reason. I don't know why, but it's.
We spent 3 days down there about 2 or 3 years ago. I almost won a top 6 on West Point, cranking and throwing a drop shot.
Bleh.
But here you go, farmer. I did it farmer style. It's a farmer style drop shot.
Bow shot.
7.2 medium heavy with 15-pound test.
That's
we-
more like
we
my
wrecked
best.
It's power drop.
That's
We
power
wrecked
dropping. Bubba shot.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
fun. We
Hey,
caught a bunch of fish.
Sometimes it works that way. Last time I was out there, well, 2 times ago we have a veterans tournament that we fish, and it's a thing for veterans show up and people take vets out fishing. But anyway, I ended up cranking. It was a DT6 near the south end of the lake and caught one. Then the last time I was out there, we ended up throwing a frit side through a concrete piling and catching decent fish.
I caught
on
them
it,
cranking and DT6 and Fluke Jr. and then a Demiki Armor Shad. And I actually caught some on a brush hog on that power shot, just keeping it up off the bottom. And we caught some nice fish like that.
All right. When you guys going to start night fishing?
I already started.
Yeah, so
Alex-
say Alex started. I'm about to go here in the next week or two just to get on that dock light bite where all the before they start spawning, all the big ones get on these dock lights and see if we can't go knock a big head in the.
Now, are you tournament night fish or just fun fish night?
Just
fish?
fun
Fun
fishing.
fishing.
Well,
So-
I do monthlies and stuff too.
I got you.
So and I can fish at night. So I mean, I am fishing in a tournament, but not like your normal one.
We have them out where I fish at, but I don't get to do as many, especially during the week, because it's an hour drive to whatever lake I'm going to go to, basically. So the lake near my house, I can night fish, but technically it's not allowed. But I have been out there at night, or at least darker times than when they're not getting beat up and the fish don't know they're being fished for.
Oh, it's every year I see it and I miss it because of my work schedule and everything. But from now until spawn, there are so many big fish caught at night on those dock lights, sitting there just feeding 24 hours a day, getting ready for spawn. And there's some monsters
now
that are caught.
I've got some, they do the summertime, nighttime fishing tournaments. I'm going to say something that may or may not be everybody may not agree with, but do you feel like night fishing gives people a false sense of what they can accomplish fishing versus daytime fishing?
Oh, yeah.
Because I got buddies about, well, we caught, 20 pounds at night fishing. I'm like, well, yeah, but to me, night fishing, I just almost feel like they're set up in those spots way better than they should, they are during the day. And I just, like I said, I told him that, and he kind of, like, I can't believe you said that to me, but I'm like, it makes you look like a better fisherman when you're night fisherman. Sometimes I feel like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, man, because people have said that to me.
Yeah, I mean,
Because I fish so much at night, right? It's just my schedule with my kid and stuff. But you can only catch them at night. It's easy to catch them at night, and then they come out there with me, and they can't catch them.
and I'm not saying that that's all it is, but it's the guys that don't fish any other time. They only fish nighttime. They're not, struggling during the day. And I just, certain lakes I go to that you go at nighttime and you can absolutely hammer them. you know, and then there's, you know, anyway, that's just,
You can get away with a lot more loud, we'll say it, loud baits at
Right.
night,
right.
because they're going off their secondary senses more than
Right.
their sight at night.
I got you. Like I said, it's just one of those things I have.
It's a true reaction strike at
Yep.
night.
Yep, absolutely. Let's see. B&T Outdoors, Old Bagley DB3 Crankbait produced some nice ones last weekend on Lanier. There you go. It's a good deal.
Well, it's this warm weather, our first wave, they've had enough time to calm down, because everybody knows you get that first wave, they're the most finicky fish you've ever seen in your life. You'll put a bait anywhere near them and they're gone and they won't come back.
Yep.
They've had time to chill out. And it's starting to show in the weights in tournaments with this warm weather, and all these largemouths starting to show up.
Yeah.
These fish are starting to calm down, and there's some pretty good bags. It took 18-20 on Allatoona in the ABA to win.
Yeah, that was a bag. It was definitely a bag. We got some comments about night fishing being easy. I'm not going to say it's easier. I just think it can fool you a little bit. Danny Pruitt, y'all looking good, boys. Cheers from the damn Japanese restaurant I can't pronounce. Well, Danny, we appreciate the opportunity and enjoy it, man. Kevin Thornton, nighttime, no jet skis. Now, that's true. Well,
yeah, it's true.
It's sort of true. I mean, I've had buddies that were almost hit by wake boats at night when they got it on. I guess they can go autopilot a wake boat, and they're out there being goofy. So
I almost had my killing on Notley from pontoon boat that was out there at night in the cut with no lights, and I just happened to see it and turn it hard to the left and miss it.
And turn off your doggone whatever headlights you got on the boat. You're blinding everybody with that crap. So sorry, I won't be negative. I just
you really got to have your head on a swivel out there. You got to have a whistle and a horn and
absolutely
and a spotlight and all that stuff.
I'm so scared of Lanier because of and it's not because of the haunted stuff. I'm scared of Lanier at night because of the drunks that are out there of a night, because I have been out there I don't know how many times, and them just sit there hooping and holler going down the lake, and you'll look over there and they'll have the lights on and nobody's at the helm. They're just going down the lake.
Yeah,
guys just back there dancing, and I'm like,
what are
the
you
bank's
doing?
right there, dude.
What are you doing? I mean, I took my wife, we did an Ironman tournament. I think it was summer before last, and she did not like night fishing because, you're still running point to point wherever you're going, but you got to be so careful. And we came out of a creek. I'm like, here, hold this spotlight so I can see what's around this corner, because it's known to have boats tied up on. If you don't spotlight the corner, you're not going to see them tied up, because they let them drift, 15 to 20 yards out in the water when they're tied to the bank. And, but yeah, so she refuses to do that ever again. So, all right, well, it's time for question of the week. We're going to pull up our sponsor here, Serve IT. Serve IT, technology managed services, guys. If you're looking for any IT services, they focus on, they're fishermen. They do just like we do, but they're your full service Serve IT company. If you're looking for that service, please reach out to them. You can find them on their website. Serve IT, is it serveit.com?
Yeah.
Yep, serveit.com. Make sure you reach out to them. Also, if you're looking for, if somebody may be interested in working in IT, reach out to those guys. Get you an interview with them and see if you're the right fit for the company. I think you'll be pleasantly pleased working with those folks if you get on. But just make sure you reach out to Serve IT. We appreciate them and all the support they've given us over the last few months. And Alan's a great guy. He put on the no forward face sonar tournament last year. Really thought a lot of that. But reach out to Serve IT if any of your IT needs. And then we're going to do the question of the week. I think Jonathan Farmer's going to read it twice for us. And we've got this ARC J110 SP. We're going to give that away tonight. What you'll do is you'll just reach out to Danny, or, reach out to Danny on Facebook Messenger. If you win, give him your information. He'll make sure you get that. Danny, I hope you're watching. We picked one off the shelf. Sorry. All right, go ahead with that question.
All right. This is a three-part question. On the ABA on Lanier, been on January 27th. What was the winning weight? Who caught the winning weight? And what was the big fish? Again, what was the winning weight? Who won with the winning weight? And and what was the size of big fish?
And what was the date on that tournament?
January 27th.
January 27th. So we'll wait and see. Alex will, because Farmer knows the answers. I don't even know the answers. He may need to go show Alex. I don't know if he won't. He may be able to keep up with the comments. I don't know, but we'll let him show Alex real quick. Because again, I forgot to set this up before the show started. That's our one big fail for the night. So at least we got the show up and running, and we'll keep going through the comments and get some definitely a lot more dangerous. And that's one thing get some also said that's one thing I stress about. Be careful when fishing from the bank on water or being on the water. Absolutely. John G. Wilson, they're doing a great job. We appreciate it. And then Adam W. Fishing says nighttime is for sleeping. And honestly, that's not a bad idea either. John G. Wilson, I fell asleep in my kayak in the middle of the night, ran into the dock, about fell out of my kayak. Yeah, that's probably not a good place to fall asleep is on a kayak like that. And then my wife says never again. So she's like she said, never going fishing again. She did not like the nighttime fishing. Well, let's, we'll talk since we're on nighttime fishing. We'll talk about that. If we're going nighttime fishing, let's say, I don't know if I did go out this weekend, but let's say we're going out this weekend, nighttime fishing. What are you thinking? How much are we changing from the daytime fishing that we're doing?
I'm changing.
Like
I've got 5 baits on my front deck that I'll throw at night year round. I'm going to start with either a crankbait or a chatterbait to see if I can get that big bite. Then I'm going to hit it with a deeper running crankbait to run it across the bottom. If that doesn't work, then I'm going to pick up the jig, see if I can get that going. If that doesn't work, then I'm going to pick up that small cast echo and try and mimic the smaller bait fish to see if I can pick them up that way.
There you go.
And if I throw in that 6th one, it's going to be a wacky rig.
Okay.
Let that thing slow fall down through there.
Dave, what are you thinking? If you're, I know you and I talked about we don't night fish as much.
Night fish a ton, but I would chatterbait, big square bill, especially where I am up at Gunnersville. Big spinnerbait, a bigger profile worm, jig, something to drag. That's kind of where I'm gonna leave it.
All right. Alex, I know you're watching the comments, but what are you doing at night? If you're going this coming weekend, what are you thinking about throwing?
So if I'm targeting dock lights, I'm using underspins and jerkbaits. Strictly, that's it.
I was going to say I've watched Alex on enough lives. I can probably tell you what he's going to throw.
If I'm not fishing dock lights and I'm beating the bank, it's going to be a shaky head, a crankbait, spinnerbait, chatterbait. Pretty much that's it.
I got you. Sounds good. You got
Christopher is close.
Christopher Brown, you're close. You're close. We got several answers in there. Get some says he's going to use chatterbait, spinnerbait, crank lipless. It's back up the top there. And maybe a drop shot for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then wacky rig, drop shot or killer. Josh.
Buzzbait's a lot of fun at night.
Yep.
And that's the one thing about the buzzbait. Honestly, I throw mine. I want to throw it on the bank. That's why I'm kind of that guy that throws it on the dirt and then brings it back in the water. Just always have. I will. You lose them at night. But the one good thing about the buzzbait, if you have a problem hooking fish with a buzzbait, if you throw it at night, you're going to catch them because you're not going to know they're biting at it like you would during. You're not going to snatch it out of their jaws like you would during the day.
Yeah, Christopher he almost got it. He's still off a little bit.
Christopher, you're almost there. You're almost there.
He is still off just a little bit.
Buzzbaits I love at night. So you get some says buzzbaits I love at night. Just ordered 2 black on black. Yep, that's what is it?
Yep,
is that
one with 2006
BNT Outdoors, and
it was a 610 largemouth caught by Scott Loffman.
Good job, BNT Outdoors. Like I said, you get this ARC J10 SP, J110 SP. Just message Danny on Facebook, and he will get you. Send him your information, and I'll make sure that he gets that to you. We appreciate it. So, I guess we'll get into some other discussion about fishing at night. But like I said, I don't do much night fishing, honestly. Yep, make sure you message him, BNT. But what else could we be looking for in the next coming weeks? We got the weather change. We talked about that earlier. We've got the weather change, and then we've got, I don't know, because the other guy asked about March 1st. we don't have much time. What are you thinking, John?
I'm looking at Christopher. I'm not being mean, but 2008 is not 2006.
Oh, did he say 2006?
He said 2008 with a big fish of 610. He missed. He got beat out by like I've got beat out in tournaments by .02.
Oh man! So yeah, we had the. He didn't comment above that, did he?
He did, and it was 2008.
I got you. Oh yeah. So yeah, you were till 2008. Yep. It happens. Yeah. Hey, look.
Yeah, you had it until you didn't. We've like me.
We've all had those 100ths of an ounce.
What is it as? My nickname is Warning Track Power.
Warning Track Power.
So I can always get right there at the fence, but I never can hit it over.
Yeah, sometimes it happens like that. So, yeah, I mean, we're getting into, we talked about night fishing. We talked about the weather change. I guess I'm more, wanting to go back to the weather change stuff because I'm not going to night fish probably till it gets a lot warmer outside personally. That's just me. But so looking at that weather pattern, the one guy asked a question about what you're throwing on March 1st, how predictable can it be between now and spawn?
Dock lights are dock lights. They're always going to have fish under them
at
night. Same thing with marinas and bank lights. They're always going to have fish around them. It's just, can you get those fish to bite what you want to throw at them? It's the same thing during the day, but they're more localized to a light. Right, because there's bait around them.
And just because you don't see fish under a dock light doesn't mean they aren't there.
Yeah, there's always fish around a dock light. And I don't keep bass to eat, but I'll keep everything else under the sun to eat. They're a great way to go out there and catch crappie
and striper
and striper to eat. Heck, I've caught catfish under a dock light.
Yeah,
everything gets under a dock light.
Yeah, we went to Allatoona a couple years ago and throwing a trap on the dock lights just to catch those hybrids. That's what we were aiming for. We'd catch, whatever bite, but that's what we were aiming for. And then, you say you don't eat them. I did Allatoona this last year, and spotted bass is good eating. I don't care.
Yeah, they taste good. They really do taste good. And on Blue Ridge, I'll keep every spot I catch.
Yeah, and then, we went on a little guided trip, our company, whatever, and it was good eating. I'm not gonna lie, it was good eating. Wasn't expecting it for sure. Some of them stripers or dot lights look like dang tuna. Yep. You're gonna catch some big ones if you go out there for it.
That's what I'm going out there for this time of year.
Yes, the one you caught the other night, that was a hoss. That was a big one. What did that end up weighing? 12
pounds 6 ounces.
Good one.
So when you catch a 12-pound on a kayak, I mean, how much of a ride are you in for with that thing? Are you taking a trip with that?
It depends on where it takes me, man. Yeah. If it takes me under the dock or into the light, I'm gonna lose it.
Yeah,
9 times out of 10. But if it takes me out into the channel or into the ditch or whatever, I'll let it drag me for a second, and then I just hit spot lock and wear it out.
There you go. That's good. I mean, because and that was an honest question. I've never been on a kayak before. You catch a 12-pound striper. What is your game plan? So that's great to hear that back from that. I use a lot of paddle tails on my buzzbaits, rarely toads, but I like the crawl style baits best usually, to be honest. Yeah,
it's like I said, the Z crawl is my favorite buzzbait trailer.
Yeah, and that's mine.
It's toads or crawls are the only things I throw on a buzzbait.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still a skirt guy, to be honest.
I don't even have I'm all naked.
Well, years ago, the skirts was what was on them. So I've got my first ever bass that I had mounted. Still got the double blade with the chartreuse skirt in it, and that's pond fishing. So when I got out of fishing, that's all I knew. I got back into fishing. Now they put everything you can find on the back of a buzzbait, and so I started doing the typical toad and stuff. But I'm back to some skirts. I've got both. I keep the skirts or I keep the Z crawl.
Skirts have its time in place.
I agree. Let's see.
During the shad spawn or the herring spawn, you want to be throwing a skirt because you're getting a lot of that movement, like you've got a ball of bait going or against each other. Right. Skirt's going to outperform the soft plastic.
Right. That's a good point too. And mom of those gizzard shad look like bass under those lights. Yeah, some of those gizzard shad will fool you for sure. I mean, those jokers. At the lake I fished near the house, and again, I won't name the lake because I don't want people out there beating it up. It's a small pond, but I was out there a couple of weeks ago, or I was going a couple of months ago, and there was a gizzard shad on top of the water, and I thought it looked like, it was the size of a spot, one of those small spots. I was kind of surprised for a small body of water to have a big gizzard shad like that.
Yeah, my old John Allred pulled a 16-inch gizzard shad out of Lake Ackworth.
Wow. And that the place I'm fishing is about the same size as Lake Ackworth, actually. So yeah. Is one color dot light better than another?
Yes.
That's a good question. I like that question.
Green. If you find a green dock light, you better fish it.
As opposed to what color? What
White.
color? White or
I started to say green. Green is probably the only one you'll really see. You'll see blue.
I see blue.
But it's most of the time your dock lights is the ones that are right above the water or they're in the water. A lot of your green lights, they're made to be under the water, which on Lanier you're starting to not see as many because they're not allowing them back in the water because they've had a couple drownings and because of them, people getting electrocuted.
Yeah, if you're gonna put a dot light, make sure
you got to have a timer on it to where the electricity cuts off to it, or go down there and unplug it.
Yeah, I mean, it's super important if you're going to put them in the water, make sure you're actually putting something that's supposed to be in the water, not just dropping a drop cord or whatever it is that's causing stuff like that for sure. We hit the green lights. That's what I'm looking for every time is green lights. I've got a place that I fish that I like. So he has a white light on the dock that's on a timer and it points down at the water.
Yes.
And that will get a lot of, but again, this is a lake that's the only light there is. There's not a lot of docks with green lights on them. So that's where they were schooled.
White light, I am going to say that white lights work just as good as green lights, but with a green light, they're not as spooky.
Right.
Because they can't, with a green light, it's more of a dull light and it keeps those shad circling. With a white light, they're just all over the place. Far Dog asked, what's the trick to putting a hook in the Elastech baits? I'll hand me one of those hooks right there. When you're working that soft plastic or that Elastech bait, push it down and let go of the bait and let the hook work itself in to where it's going to be and be straight. Because if you try and force it, you're going to have that bowed up mess that you end up getting. But you're going to push it down, let it rest, push it down a little further, let it rest until you get it where you want it. And then you stick your hook out and put it out there. And that's how I found how to rig them straight. You're going to have a wire keeper too. They do not like the collars.
Port head collars. Yeah,
they do not like the collars. So a wire keeper is the best for Elastechs.
And that is the one thing that will tear up an Elastech too, is trying to take that back off of that wire keeper. So when you're threading it, make sure you're taking your time with it.
The other thing you can do that I've learned too, and Mark Daniels did a video on it. He's a big Z-Man guy. Jacob Wheeler did one on it because the mooch minnow is made out of that similar material. Once I get it almost to the top, grab it under the bottom by the chin, pull it and snap it, and it'll jump itself up there where it needs to be.
Yes.
Normally, I put one little dab of glue, and she's there.
Yep.
It ain't coming off.
Yeah, that's a good.
Queen Tackle makes a good one for that. For the when I was on Lanier 3 weeks ago, that's what I used, the Queen Tackle head with the it's not a Z-Man product, but it's the Elastech. It's the baby 2Z by Strike King. It's an Elastech bait, but Queen Tackle has the wire keeper as a tungsten head. Anything that has that wire keeper is going to be better off than your collar keepers.
Right.
And exactly like Dave said, is when you get it straight and you get it to that collar, pull the chin down and up and snap it back, and it'll snap into place.
It's definitely got a different.
Yeah, it's hard if you don't know how to do it. You end up with a lot of messed up baits.
Oh yeah.
I use the owner lockdown, and it's got that weird looking kind of thing, but like I said, I can get it on there and it usually stays. Put a little dab of that Loctite gel, and you're there for a while.
Yes.
Yeah. When I started back fishing, that's one of the reasons I kind of got away from the Elastech, because it was kicking my tail. You know, you're out there with expensive worms or whatever you're trying to do, and you're wasting a couple of them to do
not put them with Elastisol or the Plastisol.
Yep.
You'll melt everything in your box.
Yep.
And it'll be useless.
It looks like
Keep
soup.
those in a bag by themselves.
Yeah, I've got a bag that just has my Z-Man stuff in it.
Mhm.
It's totally separate from anything else that I have because I don't want to take a chance on it.
You will melt everything.
Yep.
You'll melt your plastisol and you'll melt the Elastech.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's pretty much all of our questions there. So we'll just keep going with. We got one there. Oh, John G. Wilson. I got a great route for Sinclair for night fishing, submerged green lights and bright white lights. Caught my biggest fish off them. Yeah, I mean, there's, and I don't know about anybody else, but we're talking about fishing lights. Don't forget, when those lights go off, that doesn't mean the fish go completely away.
No, they're there.
Those routes are still good for daytime fishing too. I mean,
So when the dock owner turns the light off because he wants you to leave, stay there and keep fishing.
I mean, keep
Yeah.
fishing. Because
Stay
those
there
fish
'cause-
get used to people fishing just the light on, and when you turn the light off, they're like, well, hey, now it's safe to go back. I mean, I've got some of my biggest catches on docks with green lights that they're not on. I mean, we fished one this last weekend that we hit a couple weeks ago, had good fish on it. They're not there when the lights were on, but they're there when the lights aren't. So
I saw a comment way back up that we didn't get. Don't worry about it, Alex. It's how we were catching largemouths right now,
Oh yeah, on
Yeah.
Lanier.
okay,
or
I'll fit that.
or Allatoona. I saw one for Allatoona
Hey,
too.
if you guys don't get your question answered, please ask it again because we go through and we may or may
Well,
not see it. So please
but-
don't think we're ignoring you.
I know on Lanier right now, target docks, and if you find a dock with brush on it, sit there and fish it.
Yep.
Jig, worm, and maybe a bigger size swim bait like a 4.8 or something, or a 3.8 or a 4.2 or something like that. There are a lot of fish around docks right now. A lot of fish shallow. This cold weather, I don't see them like Lanier. I don't see them going out of that dock brush. They'll be there until it's time for them to push up. Allatoona, I know I heard a lot of the big largemouth that were caught during the ABA last weekend were caught on a jig out of brush as well and rock. So them fish ain't going to push off of that either. So the largemouth bite is only going to continue to get better from here on out. You're going to start seeing a lot more largemouth weighed in on Lanier. If I wanted to target largemouth, I would be 3/4 of the way back into a pocket or a creek, targeting every dock, every laydown, every piece of structure I could with some type of jig, spinnerbait, or square bill.
Yep, absolutely. Dave, what do you?
I agree. And one thing, go back to the lights. And like I said, I don't night fish a whole lot, but having a place on Gunnersville, this is something I found. As we get into the spawn and moving out of that, we're going to end up with shad spawn. Down here, you guys will get herring spawn. Early in the morning or late in the evening, usually late in the evening, I take the wife out on the pontoon boat. And when we're going by docks, I make notes of whose dock lights, even right around the lake at night, it's not necessarily a dock light, but whose lights on their docks stay on. And a lot of those, not everybody does it, but certain times of the year, people will leave their lights, just their regular floodlights on the dock. When you get into a brim spawn or anything like that, those are the first things I target first thing in the morning, because those lights are up there. There's bugs, there's brim, and those usually are my better docks.
Right.
Like if I'm going to fish a dock first thing in the morning, starting around April, May, it's usually because there was a light left on. It may only be there till midnight. It may be all night. I've done it at Sinclair. I've done it at Coney. And people just leave their floodlights on all night. And you pull in there, and those largemouth, usually largemouth, are swimming around, eating brim that are eating whatever bugs that are hitting the water.
Mm-hmm.
So I always try to focus on those.
Get some.
I've got
Go
a
ahead.
light. I'm not gonna say where on Lanier, but
I know where.
it's got a bug zapper over the top
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah, I know exactly where it's at.
Man,
That's putting
it's
food right in
awesome.
the water for
Yeah,
them.
it's great.
Heck yeah.
Got a lot of panfish around it.
It does.
So-
and some white bass too.
Somebody asked a question about turning the light on while they're bank fishing. Obviously, was joking, but then Gitson said if there isn't a light there, I would say that they would spook. Well, I've seen you get your crappie guys or your striper guys, whatever. I've seen them out in the middle of the river channel. They're not there all the time, and they'll drop green lights over the side of the boat while they're fishing. So,
Tie up to the bridge and
Yeah.
just have them.
I mean, so adding a light when there wasn't a light,
Still going to bring the
still
bait.
going to bring some
If
bait.
the bait comes, the predators will follow.
Yeah, I think. I mean, obviously, you're not setting your cell phone up on the side of the bank, but I mean, if there wasn't a light there before, that you could put one there now and it might actually bite
a lot of those green lights, because the cord's so long and they float.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually watched bank fishermen have their truck close enough to the water where they could plug it in, and they threw it off into the lake 15, 20 feet out into the water and let it sit there and bring fish to them where they could fish it.
Shoot, they got the alligator clamps on them. You just carry a battery down there with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hey, you do what, I mean, listen, obviously be careful doing any of that when you're throwing out electrical stuff out in the water. But yeah, I mean, I see guys with boats that take lights out in the middle and fish off of them. I don't think that's going to make too big of a difference.
I saw one up there that was color crankbaits.
Oh yeah, I did too. I saw that. What's our favorite colored crankbait?
What? Yeah.
Yep, right there.
What
Eddie
is your
Hudson.
favorite color crankbait when fishing a crankbait?
Dave, what do you got?
In springtime, I fish the dark brown crawl a lot. It's a go-to. It's a staple in my boat. If you look at any of them I got, they have paint eaten off of them. The one farmer likes is really good. What's it called? Demon. It's good too. I tend to catch more on the dark brown crawl. Spro makes one that's red with a green back.
Mud bug.
That one's a good one if I'm throwing a rock crawler. Past that, I'm a shad, like Lanier stuff. I'm a shad, usually something with a green back. And then if I get out on Gunnersville, like in the summertime, I'm throwing either a shad color or something big and bright.
Yeah. What about you, Farmer?
Mine all depends on time of year.
Yeah.
Pre-spawn, from right now until spawn, I'm throwing bright oranges and bright reds. If I've got dirty water, if I've got clean water, it's dull, see-through reds. If they're on bait fish, and I know they're on bait fish, I'll throw a white one or something like that. But as far as this time of year is red and oranges, just because I've had my most success on red and oranges this time of year. Another really good color and a crankbait that doesn't get talked about and is a great wintertime and pre-spawn crankbait is the Norman Deep Little End. Been out forever.
Mm-hmm.
Great cold water crankbait. They've got a color called mellow yellow. It is a brown back with a chartreuse belly. Dynamite color in dirty water. You're just mimic what kind of bait fish you think are there. I mean, the bluegill are shallow now too.
Yes, sir.
Bluegill are there. So
they were
a green pumpkin, some type of green pumpkin with purple crankbait is going to probably get bit just as good as, say, a white or shad colored one or a crawfish colored one, because their entire forage is up shallow now.
Right.
Yeah, it might move off a little bit, but it ain't going far.
What was that you said, Alex?
Green crawl, rock crawler,
No, the green crawl
It's
rock
like
crawler is awesome.
blue and green. It
Yeah.
looks nice. Yeah, it works.
Yeah, I mean, I caught a 5.2 a little over a week ago. It was a chartreuse side with a brown back. So chartreuse and cinnamon DT6, I think it was.
Yes, and I mean, if you want chartreuse, because chartreuse works so well on these spotted bass, rock crawler makes their summer crawl.
Yep.
Green pumpkin back, chartreuse belly.
Yeah.
I
like the demon color. I go to demon.
Oh, I love demon.
Well, so demon color, obviously. Then the rock crawler's got that. Was it electric crawl?
They
They got
something?
that cellmate
Electric crawl.
too. Cellmate. is
Cellmate's
really
a great color. Demon for me, for largemouth, is probably my go-to color. Go-to crankbait is a DT6 or a DT8. From now until spawn, I will always have a DT6 or DT8 tied on in demon until the water gets above, or it gets to spawning time. Then I'll pick something else up. But love the Rapala DT series for this time of year.
I'm a DT junkie anyway, so I've got a box full of from
I've got
4s all the way up to 20s.
I've got one box just dedicated to DTs.
Well, I mix a lot of them in, but I do have a box for all my bigger ones, and something I'll throw is I had it in the name in a minute. It's the greenback shad. I can't think of the name now, but it's basically a white shad color.
Green something.
Yeah, I had it a minute ago, and I just completely completely forgot
Green
it.
gizzard.
Green gizzard, yeah, that's it. That's exactly the bait I'll use. And I'll put a feathered treble on the back treble hook, and sometimes that gets a few extra bites. But that's my go-to from that spring, summer. That if I go deep cranking like that, I like to hit those with that. But
I will give away a little bit of my what I look for when I'm throwing a DT, the DT and Demon. If we got clean water, go back to these pockets, because we're going to have rain from now until it's going to rain every other day.
Right. This is the rainy season.
It is the rainy season. Carter's is probably one of the clearest lakes you'll find. Hardly ever dirties up, real clean water. But if you can go find one little creek that's got dirty water in the very, very back of it, that's where I'll throw it. Or if I go back and I find the mud line where the mud ends and it starts to get cloudy versus clear, that's where I'll throw it. Dirty water is key with that bright orange. You can still catch them in clean water. Don't get me wrong. You can throw it all over, but if you can find dirty water in a clean lake, that's where that bait's going to shine.
Yep. And I wonder what it is about that Demon that makes it. And
I don't know, but they love it. I don't know how many fish I've just wrecked on them.
I have thrown another red in the same spot and not come up with anything, and then turn around and throw that Demon color or the rock crawler, whatever, electric fire crawl, whatever they call it, and catch fish literally in the same spot that I've thrown a different color red. And it's something about that color that
it's that bright orange.
Yeah, it gets them going. Anyone tried chasing bass with forward-facing sonar at night?
Oh, yeah. It's still used forward-facing sonar at night. Where I use it the most is to see if they've piled up in a brush pile. If I look over at the brush pile and go, I don't see any movement, I might make a cast in it to see if I can make something move, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time. Same thing with dock lights. If I pull up on a dock light and I scan over and I look at it, and all I see is these wide, short, stubby little marks, all I know that there's probably white bass or crappie,
right,
or bluegill. I ain't going to pay it any mind. I might come back later to see if the bass have moved up on it. But yeah, you still use every tool to your advantage, no matter night or day. I mean, I don't change colors of my chatterbaits when I fish at night. I don't change from a white one.
Right.
Shad don't change color at night.
Yep, that's true. I stick with a white chatterbait for most of the time myself. Anyone thinking about throwing a weightless fluke on docks this month, or have you already? And while y'all answer that question, I'm going to step aside just for a second. So,
did that Saturday. They'd come and look at it. They wouldn't eat it.
Yeah, I don't throw it until we get a little bit further along. This is the time I'm gonna throw that big swim bait, looking for a big bite.
Only reason I did it was because we were seeing them nosed up against dock floats. And when you see them nosed up against dock floats, there's one or two baits that you can throw at them and usually guarantee a bite. It's usually a waggy rig or a fluke, and they wouldn't touch either.
Yeah. And like I said, last week I was on Gunnersville and I already saw brim nosing up on those dock floats. So that's why the bigger baits are going to start coming out, trying to entice those bigger fish to come out. The orange chatterbait with the orange freeloader, that's a good combination. I actually have they make an easy shiner in that orange too. That's really good if you need a little more kick on chatterbait. I throw it a good bit.
Herring spawn is when I start throwing the Seville. That's May. Usually May is when you start seeing the herring start spawning. But yeah, that's when the Seville comes into play. And I am very particular what I target on the herring spawn. Yes, you can find them on marina docks, you can find them on boat slips, you can find them on boat motors. But the one area that gets skipped over a lot that I find the most fish for a herring spawn are blow-throughs. Blow-throughs between islands, sandy bottom, are the place where I found most of the fish that have got these spawning herring pinned.
Yep.
Are blow-throughs.
That's something I did this last going into fall, talking about the blow throughs or the saddles, things like that, where those fish are going to stack up, get pushed into whatever. You want to get some confidence in throwing something like a fluke or a glide bait or something like. You find where they're stacking it, where they have no options but to be there. And that's how, because I'm also looking at how to gain confidence with glide baits, things like that. You got to find the spots where you're going to be, fish are going to be.
I have found with glide baits, and this is just me, and it may be the way I fish, I have to be around some type of cover for me to get bit on a glide. I cannot, for the life of me, and I know there's guys that can do it, go out there over open water and throw a glide bait out and catch them. I can't do it. I have to be around trees, docks, rock, incoming water, river water. I've got to be around some type of that's going to position these fish to where I can make a presentation to them to make them eat.
And most of what I do it over is either docks or grass. And I'll throw it around the eelgrass and things like that. The biggest thing is you have to understand what you're doing. And it's you're not going to go out there and catch 40.
No.
You might catch 4, but you're going to catch 4 usually good ones. And it's one of those, just like learning anything else. You got to lock it in your hand and stay with it and keep bouncing around. Once you get a bite on it, kind of figure out what that bite came off of, but you just got to keep throwing it. It's hard. It's hard for everybody. We all want to catch fish. Most of us work 9 to 5s, and you know, you get 2 days off, you want to catch something.
So you go back to your confidence stuff.
That's right. But you got to throw it.
And you know, and something that I did this last year was I turned on my electronics. I started paying attention to my electronics. So I tell people this all the time. I didn't fish a fluke a whole lot. I had to learn I taught myself how to fish the fluke, but I had to learn how to find the bait fish first. And that's how I build my confidence now is I go find bait fish, like, you know, going to the docks and things like that. You know, once you get experience with it, you can go and fish those things and have confidence you're going to catch fish on this dock versus this dock or this transition. But for me, it was like, all right, I'm paying all this money for electronics. Let me figure out how to find a ball of bait, and then I'll start fishing that ball of bait, or I'll see other, you know, the fish attacking that ball of bait, and then I'll just pick up the bait that I didn't have confidence in. For me this year, it was the minnow, and I'll start throwing in the middle of that bait ball. It's kind of almost like cheating. No, I'm not out there zigzagging around looking for, you know, singular fish, but it got me the confidence now that I can pick up that minnow, you know, jigging minnow or the fluke, weighted fluke, whatever I decide to do with it. And that's, I mean, if I was going to go out tonight or tomorrow and fish a glide bait and try to get confidence in, I want to find some bait balls. That's just my way of doing it. I'm going to use my electronics to narrow that down, because I am one of those guys that if I go out there and spend an hour throwing at something and don't catch anything, I'm irritated. I'm going to go try to find, I'm just going to be fishing all the rest of the day.
If I want to go get confidence in throwing a glide bait, I'm going to Burton, where all those big trout eaters are at.
Hey, there you go. That's some juice right there.
But the way, I mean, you're talking about forward facing sonar and learning what you're looking at, how I learned how to throw, or what I'm looking at in forward facing sonar and bait balls and stuff like that. I went back to my confidence. I went to a crankbait. I went to a deep crankbait. And if I saw those bait balls out there, I'd run that crankbait through that bait ball and scatter that bait ball. And I was catching fish, because when you scatter that bait ball and there's only one bait sitting there, then fish are going to eat it.
Yep.
And that is actually one way I love to catch them in the fall on Lanier, is I'll go out there offshore, and I know it's odd for me to be offshore, but I'll look for those bait balls that got a fish under them, and I'll throw that deep 15-foot diver through it and burn that crankbait through that bait ball, scatter that bait, and when they scatter, I kill that crankbait where it sits, and it usually load up.
Yeah. I mean, that's, you know, I see a lot of people say they hate fall fishing because, you know, the fish are all over the place. But I'm telling you, I just turn on my side scan, down scan, 2D, whatever. I go to the creek, mouth of creeks, whatever, look for those bait balls, and then I just turn and fish. And that's how I got a ton of confidence this year. You know, was focused on using my electronics to narrow it down. And this year's going to be my glide bait year, or at least something along those lines. I've got to learn to fish.
I've bought me a few now to get more. This is going to be the year that I target big ones. Since I'm not really tournament fishing much,
that's me.
I'm going for a PB.
We scope with it at Gunnersville. They got guys scoping with glide baits.
That's unreal. That's crazy. I mean, I can see it. I can see it happening.
But the thing is, he's sitting there, and like I said, you get one that sinks down, and they're up there. I mean, like I said, like he was talking about those big gizzards. They got gizzards up there that the bass just gets to a point they can't eat. It's too big. And that's what a lot of those fish are feeding on those bigger gizzard shad. And you get that glide bait coming through there, you can catch your butt.
See, it's never struck me until this last year. Altoona's covered in big gizzard shad. It's got gizzard shad everywhere, big gizzard shad everywhere. It didn't hit me until 2 years ago when I started throwing a mag draft around. These fish ain't eating on thread fin all the time.
No,
they're eating on these gizzards that are 6, 7, 8 inches long.
Yeah. That's true. So I think we might have talked about this on the last show. I think we did cover the glide bait. So if I was going to go tomorrow and purchase a glide bait, I'm saying glide specifically, to learn, to get confidence in, which one would I buy? Well, I mean, I can't afford to go out there and throw a $150 glide bait to learn on, right? So what's a good glide bait that you could say, all right, I can put this in the hands of almost anybody and we can go learn how to catch
Chad shad or trick shad.
Okay.
The Buka trick shad,
yeah,
or
that's
the
a good
Chad
one.
shad.
Bull shad's not bad. Catch a lot of fish on that. I throw the ducket one. It sinks. You can get them the smaller ones, the bigger ones. The slow sink, the faster sink. That's just the ones I've worked out. Seem to work pretty good.
Kind of like we talk about getting confidence in something, and part of that confidence is not being scared to throw one. And I'll be honest with you, $150 bait off the end of my rod is
I won't buy one.
It's not where I'm confident at.
Yeah.
So
I'm pushing it with a Chad shad.
I was gonna say, what is that, like $60?
It's like $50.
Yeah,
and that's pushing it for me.
And we talked about earlier. There's some of these glide baits that came out that I've got them. I'm sure we probably all bought one, and they're just not. They're not what I thought they were going to be.
Not worth a cuss.
Yeah, they're just not worth the money. And you spend, if it costs $15, it may or may not catch you fish. I mean, and you got to.
They're inconsistent when they're that cheap because the mold's not.
Yep. But yeah, I know they're expensive too. All right, we talked about that one. Appreciate it. Alex, what top water do you like at night?
I don't really fish top water much at night.
No,
but I will throw. It's not technically a weightless fluke. It's got a little bit of weight in the belly, but I mean, it's pretty much top water.
There you go. Yeah, it's right there at the top of the water column anyway. That's a good one. I mean,
Silver Punk's got
Silver
one
Punk, which right there. I still have trouble distinguishing bass from pieces of structure on side scan.
I'll let Dave take this
go
one.
ahead with that one.
Yeah, I side scan a lot. There's two rules of thought. I'm a Lowrance guy. I run Lowrance. It's what I have. Doesn't really matter what you got. Humminbird makes unbelievable side scan. Play around with your frequencies. So if I'm looking, I've scanned a lot of linear. I've got 300 to 400, 500. I don't know how many dots I got. It looks my map looks like it's got the beezels. If I'm looking for straight structure, I like the 800 frequency. If I'm looking for fish, I want the 455. I started playing around with that last year. I can really see a lot better small stuff with the 455. Because think about it, it's like anything else. If you got a bright flashlight and you shine it in somebody's eyes, they can't see a thing. But if you got one that the batteries are about to dim out on, you shine it, you can still see. What I think what happens is these companies come out with all these megas and all this stuff. Sometimes it's too bright. I know I've talked to Gerald a couple of times. He's one of the better side scanners on Guntersville. And like he told one of the guys from Humminbird, he said, you're making it look pretty on a commercial and on a box. I need it to do what I do. And a lot of times, just because you got all that power, it's not necessarily the best thing. Now, when I'm side imaging like Lanier, I usually run it on 855 because I'm not really looking for fish. I'm looking for brush piles.
How far out are you looking?
I'm looking usually 80 to 100 feet, but there's a trick to that too is when you're learning it, put it on something and leave it alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because at 80 feet, a brush pile looks a certain size.
That's
At
right. 100
feet, it looks different. It's smaller. At 120, it's even smaller. At 60, it's way bigger than what it looks like at 80. So until you kind of learn it, leave it alone. I think Gerald runs like 70, 80 feet. That's as much as he side scans. But that way, when he sees a stump or he sees a rock or a boulder or whatever it is, the proportions are right. That makes sense?
Right.
But play around with your frequencies. Like I said, the higher the frequency, I tend to look for more brush. If I'm side scanning like points and stuff with grass on it, going to feel more times than I'm using 455.
You know, that's a good point, because I don't ever change my frequencies, and I'll get out there like you're talking about, and it's like you said, it's almost like having the high beams on.
Right.
I see all this detail, and it looks pretty when I can count the rocks and all that stuff. But then I'm going, well, where's the fish? Well, they're all blending in at that point.
Stuff like bait and stuff that's suspended, it doesn't matter as much.
Right.
But actually seeing fish, I had a place I thought I saw fish. I dropped it to 455, made another pass on it, and I found a freaking mega school.
Wow.
And they were so small and so burnt out at 800. I would literally would have kept going.
A big thing for on side scan when locating fish is you're not looking for the fish itself. You're looking for the shadow that they cast.
Right.
That's a good point.
The shadow is what's going to give them fish away. Because if you're not seeing shadow and you're just seeing a real light spot here, there, might look like rock just sticking up off the bottom. What you're looking for is that shadow. And if there's nothing under that shadow, it's not attached to the bottom, that's fish.
That's your fish.
Yeah.
On the Lowrance, and I've seen them, they'll be glued to the bottom on side scan.
Mm-hmm.
They usually look like white grains of rice.
Yeah, there you go.
If anything that's suspended, and most of those fish, especially in the summertime, will suspend a little bit off the bottom, they look like burnt rice.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, when you find that on 800, drop it to 455, and you're gonna see a lot more there than you did on 800.
Yeah. And something else with side scan that going back to your grains of rice thing, if you're riding, going down a bank, side scan, whatever, and you look and you see 5 or let's say 8 dots sitting there, if it looks, I won't say unnatural because fish are natural, but I've noticed that groups of fish are in a pattern where rock does not form in a pattern typically like that. So you see those little dots. If they're grouped together in almost like a grouping, then it's going to be fish and not rock too. So
I've also found that, like he said, like Farmer said, there won't be a shadow under them.
Yep.
But it'll be behind them.
Yep.
Because it'll pick that shadow up like in a different spot.
That's right. And that goes back to what Dave was saying with, keeping it the same. I mean, because once you know what a shadow looks like when it's glued to the bottom, or if it's raised above it, or if it's a rock, I mean, you'll know, okay, well, I know that rock's probably not 25 foot tall and this big around, it's a fish that's suspended.
Well, it's the same thing with the brush pile.
Yep.
If what you're seeing, the shadow is not the brush, you're seeing the shadow of the brush, your brush is up just a little bit further. Right. I've watched a bunch of friends where I'm out on their boat and they'll go, "Ooh, there's a brush pile," and they'll mark it.
Yep.
Well, and they mark the shadow.
Yep.
Right. And they're like, "I can't hit it. I don't know what's going on." You didn't mark the brush pile. You marked the shadow of the brush pile,
Correct.
And it's 10, 12 feet that way.
And then brush piles look totally different on side scan. Like I'm thinking brush pile, and you go by and it looks like I don't know. It just looks like some sporadic little stuff. You're going, that's not anything important. And it was actually the brush pile you were looking for.
And there's one setting I learned on Lowrance last year, because I kept seeing like it looked like artifact on the bottom. It's color line. I take that all the way down, and you get a cleaner bottom on your down.
Mm-hmm.
I take that color line all the way down because it gives you I think it's trying to mimic the contour of the bottom. And I was missing fish even on down scan because of that color line.
All right, Matt Edwards, how do you guys pre-fish different lakes for tournament? That's a great question. So I'll let either one of you guys, anybody want to start with that one? That's a good question.
It all starts at home. Mm-hmm. I'll put it that way. It all starts at home. Google Earth Pro is your friend. I can go back and I can look at, say, Lanier. We'll take Lanier. Back when it was down so far in 08, 07 and 08, so much of that place was out of the water. Now I can find every roadbed, every rock pile, every piece of structure I think them fish are going to be on. And I can mark it and go, all right, well, I'll go check this out for certain times of the year. I always take time of year into consideration too. If it's pre-spawn spawn, I'm looking for channel swings and spawning bays. And if I can find rock and laydowns, that's where I'm going to go target. But if it's dead of summer, oh, look, I can go to Google Earth Pro and go back. Oh, there's a hump here.
Mm-hmm.
look, it's got a vein of rock coming off the edge of it, and there ain't nothing else on that hump, that's where them fish are going to sit. Or I'll take Allatoona as an example. It goes down every year. So the newer the picture, the more detail you get.
Right.
When the lake's down. Now I can zoom in on a spot and go, hey, that's why them fish are there. There's a rock pile out in the middle of this ditch that somebody's put out there. I found you can see cinder blocks that people have stacked on the lake.
Yep.
Oh, that's why there's fish are here.
Absolutely.
Google Earth Pro is your friend. It starts at home. Then once you go out there, then you try and implement what you see. Just remember the rule. 90% of the fish are in 10% of the water.
Yep. And I do mine. I use Google Earth. I run CMAP and Navionics. So the other thing I will do is I have a not really sophisticated, because I don't get that sophisticated, but I have a system for waypoints. So for instance, if you get in my boat, we're running down the lake, there's going to be a blue dot. Blue dot is an area. Every ramp, we talked about fishing ramps earlier, every ramp has a stop sign and it's labeled. Every brush pile is always a yellow dot. So what I'll do is I'll sit in there and I'll look for places that I think are good, and it will be a different I will take it and put like a question mark. For instance, I had a tournament partner a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago now, we fished when Georgia Bass Trail came out. I sat in my garage and we had pre-fished it the week before, found 1 or 2 little areas that looked like had some fish in it. And I was trying to mimic that throughout the lake. So I went in there and I'd put a red question mark, something that would show up on the map. I could see it. We ended up weighing almost 18 pounds, and our 2 best fish came off a question mark. So I pulled in there. We were ditch fishing, throwing swim baits in ditches, how we were getting bit. I pulled in there. We caught some out of a ditch. I panned around, and we found 2 Christmas trees, and we caught matching 5-pounders off of those. So a lot of times it's just looking on your map and having some kind of detail to your waypoints so that when you're driving through, it makes sense. On Gunnersville, I'll mark a green dot. It usually means I've marked fish there. I can go through there, and when I get done and I'm on the lake or I'm heading out the next morning, I'll clear. If those fish are still there, a lot of times they will be from day to day, I'll clear them. If it's been 3 weeks and the patterns change, I'll clear out all my green dots and start completely fresh. New idols, new everything else, and start marking. So get a system for some sort of waypoint management. That way, when you look at it at a glance, it makes sense to you. That's helped me a ton.
Yeah, so you run Lawrence's, I run Lawrence's. See, all my brush piles are the little exclamation points.
Right.
And they're green. The little exclamation points with green. Or no, and the way I set them up too, my green ones are my milk run. Like say, this is where I've gone and I catch fish every time I hit them. Yellow are my hump brush and everything like that. Red are my dock brush.
Right.
You label it to where you know what you're looking at going down the lake.
And don't pass it on my graph. Do not pass a stop sign.
No.
That's going to be a community hole, and you will catch some few fish there.
Yeah, I run Lawrence too, and I try to keep them as,
You try to keep it as detailed.
I'm not as good as you guys with that. I mean, I still do blue dots. I do fish symbol. I change the color if it's something whether I think they're going to be there next time or not. Or I use the grass symbol. I know it looks like the longer, taller grass. I use that for my brush. I don't know why. I just always have. It's just, or rock is rock. But so he's talking about pre-fishing the lakes, and I know we're getting close to that bewitching hour here, but how do you break down? And I know this is a really big, broad statement. So if we're looking at it, how are you breaking it down? If it's a lake you haven't gone to at home, how are you breaking it down? Because that's the one thing I struggle with. I'll look at something and go, well, that's an awfully big body of water for me to say these fish are going to be here, there. And I think that goes into more of having to do a little bit more research, but breaking it down. Because I want Alex to chime in, because being a kayak fisherman, you get one shot.
Mm-hmm.
You get one shot to make that decision. How do you break it down that says this is where I'm going to put in today, and that's where we're going to fish, and that's what we're going to do? And that's for boat guys, anybody.
Well, for me, I like, for instance, we were talking about Weiss earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I pick a cove that's got a little bit of everything, and I'll fish that one cove. If, hey, I'm catching them on docks in 4 foot of water, then I'm going to start spanning out that BAP and going, all right, this cove right here is deep enough. It's got some docks in it. Looks like the right depth. And then I start trying to put a pattern together. But I usually try to start in an area that has as much as I can have. But I take it I take an area. I don't take all of Weiss Lake or all of Lanier Lake at one time. I'll pick a creek.
Right.
And start in there, and then I kind of, if I can find some fish, then I kind of expand from there.
That makes sense. That's one of those things. Getting back into fishing, I look at the whole lake, and I'm on the Google Earth Pro, and I'm going all the way down the bank, and I'm counting rocks and tires and tree stumps and whatever else I can find. And it turns into way more information.
I came from Toledo Bend. It's 180,000 acres.
Yeah.
The damn thing's 70 miles long.
Right.
You can't do that.
No.
I mean, you can fish Howson Bay. It'd take you a week.
Right.
To fish that one cove. So you have to kind of break it into something more manageable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always take time of year into my process. Yes. When we were in the winter, I'm looking for every pinch point on Navionics that I can find in deep water. That way I've got shallow water with deep water access.
Right.
If I can find like young deer's got a ton of pinch points with ditches in close proximity. Same thing with 6 Mile and Bald Ridge is the same way. You can take that whole creek and run that creek. Use your time of year the way the fish set up at that time of year. That's how I target every lake I've ever been to. This is where they should be at this time of year. And then what I find after that, then you can kind of hone in on it. But you give yourself a better chance of finding fish if you go off of what those fish do at that time of year. Pre-spawn, you're looking for channel swing banks around spawning. If you're around spots, then it's not that big a deal because they spawn on everything.
Right.
If you're on a largemouth lake, you're looking for kind of more bluffy rock stuff, dock brush, close to their spawning bays. Summertime, you're just repeating what you did in the wintertime, but backwards.
Yep.
That post spawn, you're instead of starting out and working your way in, now you're starting in and working your way out. You got to give yourself the best opportunity to find them.
And you want to run into the fish, not be behind them.
Right.
So I think keep that in the back of your mind, because I'm terrible with that. I'll think they're going to be here, and I'll get there and realize they're not there, and I don't know if I'm behind or in front. And you're starting to time of year makes sense.
Yeah, just take your time of year, and fish are always on the move, no matter what we do.
Yep.
They're going to be different. You can go to one spot and wreck them one day and go there the very next day, and they're gone. And during transitional periods, it's just pre-spawn, start out, work your way in till you find them. And then once you find them in one creek, you pretty much can find them in every creek.
Yep.
From there on. If they're halfway back, that's where they're going to be at in most creeks. They might be off a little bit, but they're going to be halfway back.
Right.
If you find them all the way back, pushed up, most of your creeks, they're going to be pushed all the way back. Everything comes into play in the pre-spawn. Moon phase, water temperature. You got to take it all into consideration and put yourself in the best situation to find those fish.
We talked about it before the show, because I'm guilty of doing it. I won't say don't, because everybody's got to do their own thing, but tournament fish the way you fun fish, because I go into it way overthinking everything. I know how to catch fish. I go in the tournament, though, and it looks like I just started last week, and it's almost embarrassing sometimes, and that's why I'm taking this year off to kind of get back into fun fishing, this next summertime. But, fish like you fun fish, and if you go out there and think, well, the fish should be sitting here, guess what? They probably are, and you're overthinking it, or you're seeing all the other guys run to the north end of the lake or the south end of the lake, and you're trying to do what they're doing, and you can't catch another man's fish. So silver pump, when targeting laydowns, when you see when do you see a tree and pass it up because you think there's probably not a fish on that one? I'm going to tell you like this. If I'm going to lay downs, I'm probably going to do it now.
You don't pass it.
You don't pass it. Yeah, I mean, unless there's a specific, and I've had it happen to me before, the specific way it lays, or I mean, for instance, last year during I think it was our classic with Dowie, we lost a 6-pounder at literally the net. I mean, the guy was over wrenching him, and he just couldn't go in the net with it. Anyway, I said, I know where there's another tree just like this. We went across the lake to another tree and caught a 4-pounder off of it. So, I mean, that's the only time I might pass one up if I know there's another, like, positioned the exact same way, same facing bank, whatever. But, yeah, if I'm fishing laydowns, I'm fishing every dang one of them.
I'd hit from here until spawn, I'd hit every tree that I saw.
Yep.
Because once they move shallow, they're not going far. And a laydown's going to hold more heat than just a run-of-the-mill red clay bank.
Absolutely. Well, guys, that's we're 2 hours in. I didn't realize I'd answer that question. We got 2 hours. I appreciate everybody watching. I know we probably missed some questions, but we enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed it. First time hosting, get a little nervous, butterflies at first, but it worked out great. We got the great guys here with me to help me get through all that stuff. And Danny will be back next week. I think Thursday night. Alex and them have got another good show planned, so it'll be really good. I'll let them make that announcement later on in the week so you guys can see what's going on with that. Unless Alex wants to present it now, because I don't want to take any thunder away from Thursday night. Those guys are going to have a good one.
We're going to have Danny Brazzalo on from Brazzalo Custom Lures. He's going to be in town for the Noe Expo. He's going to bring some of his stuff up here, tell his story, show his stuff off, and that'll be it.
Awesome. That's going to be cool. That's going to be awesome. So, yes, I'm going to be at the Noe show. I don't know if any of the other guys, Alex is going to be there.
My truck ran just fine. My differential cover was leaking, all right? And I went up there on Saturday, and I fixed it.
Yeah, well, this week I'll be working on carburetors on a boat, so that'll be my thing. But guys, really appreciate y'all watching. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for all the great comments. We will see y'all next time. Make sure you tune in Thursday for the Thursday night show, and that's it. We're out of here.